Russia's economy isn't being managed for growth anymore. It's being managed for survival. Right now, Moscow is making a series of economic choices that protect stability in the short term, supporting the war effort, defending the ruble, and keeping key industries afloat. But those same choices come with a cost that doesn't show up immediately. When an economy prioritizes emergency spending over investment, stability over efficiency, and control over growth, the future slowly gets smaller. In this video, we're going to break down how Russia is trading long-term growth for short-term survival, and why that trade-off may define the country's economy long after the war ends. This isn't about collapse. It's about what Russia is giving up to keep going right now. 16.8 trillion rubles. That is the price of survival. As we enter 2026, the Kremlin has officially unveiled a budget that confirms what many suspected. Russia is no longer an economy with a military. It is a military with a state attached to it. Nearly 40% of all government spending is now being funneled into the war bloc. On the surface, the numbers look defiant. GDP is still growing, unemployment is at record lows, and shops are full. But behind this military miracle lies a terrifying trade-off. To keep the front lines moving, Moscow is quietly dismantling the foundations of its own future. Infrastructure is rotting, the middle class is being taxed into oblivion, and the nation's gold reserves are being sold off to China at a record pace. Russia isn't winning an economic war. It's liquidating its inheritance to buy another 6 months of stability. Today, we go beyond the propaganda to look at the math. We're exploring how Russia is trading 20 years of growth for 1 year of survival, and why the bill that's coming due might be impossible to pay. In economics, there is a classic concept called guns versus butter. A nation has limited resources. If it spends them on weapons, guns, it cannot spend them on schools, roads, or hospitals, butter. For the last 3 years, Vladimir Putin has tried to defy this law through military Keynesianism. By pumping billions into defense factories, he created an artificial boom. But as of late 2025, the butter side of the scale has finally hit the floor. Look at the 2026 budget. Defense and security now command a record 38% of all spending. Meanwhile, social programs slashed from 38% of the budget to just 25%. Economic support dropped to its lowest level in 20 years. Rural development effectively abandoned. The state is spending its resources on items destined to be burned on a battlefield. A tank produces a GDP bump when it's built, but unlike a bridge or a tractor, it never produces another ruble of value again. It's an economic dead end. To fund this deficit, Russia has had to start selling the family silver. For years, the National Wealth Fund, NWF, was Putin's Fortress Russia insurance policy. In late 2025, that fortress began to crumble. For the first time, Russia moved from trading paper to selling physical gold bars. In November 2025 alone, Russia exported a record $961 million in gold to China. But there's a catch. Because Russia is cut off from Western currencies, it is now entirely dependent on the Chinese yuan. Over 90% of Russia's trade is now in yuan or rubles. This isn't a partnership of equals. It's a colonial relationship. China is buying Russian gold, oil, and gas at deep discounts, while Russia buys back Chinese cars and electronics at a premium. Russia isn't just draining its reserves. It is siphoning its wealth directly into Beijing's coffers to keep the lights on in Moscow. While the Kremlin builds high-tech missiles, Russia's internal organs are failing. In the winter of 2024 to 2025, the world watched as thousands of Russians in the Moscow suburbs and across Siberia spent weeks without heat in -30-degree weather. The cause wasn't sabotage, it was simple physics. The Soviet-era pipe networks, many of which were laid in the 1960s and 70s, have reached their absolute breaking point. To fix this, Russia needs 2 things: billions of dollars and Western specialized parts. Thanks to the war, they have neither. In the 2026 budget, the government has made a brutal decision. Instead of using state funds to repair the rotting infrastructure, they are shifting the entire cost onto the people. In September 2025, the government announced that utility tariffs, the price citizens pay for water, gas, and heat, will rise by nearly 30% over the next 3 years. This is more than just inflation. It's a war surcharge. The economist Yevgeny Kogan noted that because the state is spending so much on the military, it has literally no money left for maintenance. In the 2026 budget, rural development and housing modernization funds were cut by nearly a third. The strategy is clear. Let the people pay for the repairs through higher bills, while the state uses the budget to buy drones. But there's a catch. Even if the people pay, the specialized pumps, turbines, and control systems needed for these repairs are under sanction. Russia is trying to patch a 21st century problem with 20th century patches, and the pipes are still bursting. The second drain is happening inside the bank accounts of the Russian middle class. For years, Russia's small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, survived thanks to a simplified tax system. It was the one part of the Russian economy that actually worked. But as of January 1st, 2026, that era is officially over. To cover a 6.9 trillion ruble deficit, the Kremlin has launched the most aggressive tax overhaul in modern Russian history. The VAT trap, the base value-added tax, is jumping to 22%. The SME squeeze. Previously, small businesses were exempt from VAT if they made under 60 million rubles. The new law, signed in late 2025, slashes that threshold to just 10 million rubles. This means that overnight, over 450,000 small businesses, the cafes, the repair shops, the local manufacturers, will suddenly be hit with a 22% tax they never had to pay before. The Russian central bank's own surveys show that businesses are in a panic. They aren't planning for growth. They are planning for price hikes. They are passing the cost of the war budget directly to the consumer. By raising the corporate profit tax to 25%, the government is effectively seizing the investment resources of its companies. Instead of a factory buying a new machine or a tech firm hiring a new developer, that money is now being siphoned off to fund the national defense budget. Russia is surviving 2026 by eating its own seed corn. It is taxing its most productive citizens into bankruptcy to pay for its least productive sector, the military-industrial complex. To stop the economy from exploding into hyperinflation, the central bank has had to keep interest rates at punishing levels, peaking at 21%. But interest rates only hurt the butter side of the economy. The gun side, the military factories, get subsidized loans from the state. They don't care about interest rates. This has created a two-speed economy. The war sector, booming, high wages, unlimited cash. The civilian sector, dying, unable to get loans, and now facing a massive tax hike. Starting January 1st, 2026, the VAT increases to 22%. Corporate taxes have jumped to 25%. Small businesses that used to be the backbone of the Russian middle class are being liquidated to pay for a war they never asked for. Russia is not collapsing like a house of cards. It is hollowing out like a tree eaten by termites. The GDP looks good because the government is spending. The unemployment looks good because the workers are either in the army or in a tank factory. But this is an economy that has stopped innovating. It has stopped building for the future. It has stopped investing in its people. Every ruble spent on a missile is a ruble stolen from a Russian child's education, a Russian pensioner's heat, and the nation's technological sovereignty. Russia is surviving 2026, but it is doing so by killing 2036. The illusion of the Russian miracle is cracking, and the data from the 2026 budget proves it. But there is another player in this game that we haven't fully explored today: China. If you want to understand how Beijing is effectively turning Russia into its newest economic colony, you need to watch our deep dive on the yuan trap right here. Don't let the headlines fool you. Look at the math. Subscribe to Powerconomy for more geopolitical analysis that the mainstream media is missing. Click the video on your screen now to see the next piece of the puzzle.